Where were you when the ship hit the sand?
What lies beyond is full of marvels and unreality, a land of poets and fabulists, of doubt and obscurity.
Yeah, my boy Plutarch knew what time it was. Because this is a story of Theseus, hero of Athens, breaker of monsters, cleaner of roads, destroyer of scum, and the man crazy enough to volunteer for a one-way trip into a death race to fight a bull-headed nightmare. All right, myth maniacs, you know how we do things around here. Grab your cup of nectar, curl up in your favorite chair, and let's go find all about Theseus, the hero of Athens.
Act 1. The Boy, the King and the Prophecy.
Aegeus, mighty king of Athens, wanted a child badly, which made sense because his brother Pallas had 50 sons. 50. Poor Mrs. Pallas probably kept forgetting the Trojans. And these nephews? They were vile, crude, cruel, vain, not to mention despicable. And those were their good qualities. As long as Aegeus remained without a child, those 50 parasites stood ready to inherit the throne of Athens. This would not do. So Aegeus tried everything. His first wife? Nothing. No children. His second wife? Again, no children. At this point, the king figured Aphrodite must have it out for him, so he introduced her worship into Athens. Just picture the speech. Citizens, the goddess of love seems upset with us. To make amends, we must build temples in her honor and worshipfully engage in sensual arts. Any objections? Objections? Methinks not. Let us pray, shouted the Athenians. And suddenly, public support for the crown reached an all-time high. The Athenians tried their hardest to please Aphrodite, but still no heir. So off to Delphi goes Aegeus. Because when all else fails, ask a half-stone priestess sitting on a crack in the earth. The oracle gives him this chant.
Loosen not the wineskin's jetting neck, great chief of the people, until thou shall have come once more to the city of Athens.
Say what thou? Aegeus is standing there like, yo, oracle, can I get that in plain Greek, please? Nope. So, totally confused and no wiser than before, he sails to Treason to visit his friend, King Theseus. Now, Theseus, oh, he was sharp, very sharp. He hears the prophecy and instantly understands what it means. And what does this great thinker do? Well, he looses the wide-skin's jutting neck, so to speak, and gets Aegeus drunk as a satyr. And then, he introduces him to his gorgeous daughter Aethra. Oh, that's what I call ancient Greek hospitality, baby. The next thing you know, Aegeus and Aethra are playing doctor until dawn. No complaint file. But then, there was a rumor. A nasty, fishy little rumor floating through the Olympian choir. That after Aegeus was done, Aethra went down to the sea to bathe. And Poseidon himself rose from the depths and had his way with her too. Oh my, earth-shaker indeed. The inquirer approached Poseidon for comment, but its attorneys had no statement. So from that day forward, there was one delicious mystery hanging over the whole story. Was Theseus the son of Aegis, or of Poseidon? Short of DNA testing, we were never going to know. When it came time for Aegeus to return to Athens, he feared for Aethra and the child she may be carrying. Because if Pallas and his 50 sewer goblins discovered the truth, mother and the child were dead. So Aegeus buried his sword and sandals beneath a great rock by the shore. The sword now was an heirloom of Cecrops, founder and first king of Athens. No cheap trinket. He told Aethra, "When you bear me a son, and when he is strong enough to lift the stone, send him to Athens with these." Did it ever occur to the man he might have a daughter? Just asking. Then he kissed Aethra goodbye, boarded his ship and shouted back, "If anyone asks, tell them Poseidon is the father." Smooth. And just like that, the prophecy was broken, the wineskin's neck loosed, and the greatest hero Athens would ever know was conceived. Or maybe was he Poseidon's kid? We'll never know.
Act 2. The fire is lit.
I met Theseus when he was about 6 or 7. My nephew Hercules and I were passing through Treason, so we stopped by Theseus' palace to say hello and raid his wine cellar. The good king was thrilled. A fabulous feast was laid out, and during dinner, Hercules removed his lion pelt so he could eat in comfort. The moment that thing hit the floor, every child in the room screamed and ran. Every child except one, little Theseus. The tiny maniac grabbed his toy sword and attacked the lion's skin with absolute conviction, killing it dead. Then he dragged the pelt around the room, chasing and terrifying the other kids like a pint-sized warlord. The thing must have been 10 times his size, but he carried it like a champion. Hercules and I were howling. Then Herc sat the boy on his knee and told him stories. Monsters, labors, glory, impossible odds. And there in the firelight, wide-eyed and silent, Theseus made his decision. He was going to be a hero. The next morning, as we rode out, he ran beside us waving his wooden sword and shouted, "Don't kill all the evil men and beasts. Cousin Hercules, save some for me." Apollo had already told us enough to know the boy was smart for greatness. That was why Hercules had assisted with stopping treason. Not coincidence, a spark was lit. "Save some for me, Uncle Urk." His voice faded in the distance.
Act 3, the choice.
Years passed. The boy became a man. Strong, fearless, bright. And when he turned 16, Aethra took him to the great rock of Aegis. "Are you strong enough to move it?" he asked. The cocky teen spurt. "One hand or two, Mom." Then he heaved the stone aside like he was opening a pantry. Beneath it lay the buried sword and sandals, his father's tokens. The blade fit his hand perfectly. The sandals looked positively heroic. "Cool birthday gifts," he says. "Thanks, Bob." Then Aethra drops the truth on him. "Your father is Aegis, king of Athens." She tells him, "You are his son. Go and claim your birthright." She warns him about Pallas and the 50 filthy sons. She begs him to be careful. Yeah, Careful. Yeah, right. That wasn't really his style. Haha, just 50? That should be no problem, Mom, he grinned. Theseus hears Theseus is heading to Athens and begs him to go by ship. Quick, safe, sensible, because the road was filled with bandits now. Back when Hercules was around, all the thieves knew enough to stay buried. But Herc had moved on to Lydia. And with the lion gone, the jackals came back. The road from Troy to Athens belonged to monsters again. Please, go by sea, Theseus pleaded. No chance. These men had been spared for him. Besides, his father's sword was far too clean. What better way to be dead than with proof of what kind of son had arrived? So he chose the road. The dangerous road. The bloody road. The road to legend.
Act 4. The world he walks into.
Now, I word here about the men infesting that road. They had speed, strength, stamina, natural gifts. But they used them to hurt people. These geniuses believed in survival of the fittest. Even back then, that idea was already looking stupid. They treated people, animals, even the land itself with contempt. To them, might was right. Mercy was weakness. Justice was a joke. They even had a slogan. The meek shall inherit the earth. Yeah, the cold earth of their graves. Idiots. Because if everyone lives like that, there is no world left, no society, no future, just extinction. And that was the world Theseus walked into. Not by accident, by choice. He was there to clean it up.
Act 5. The Road to Athens, Part 1. Paraphates the club carrier.
Sweet 16. Time to meet the neighbors. The first villain he meets is Periphetes, the club carrier. This brute loved to boast that he was the son of Poseidon, or maybe even Hephaestus. Hardly. His method was simple. You stepped on his road, he'd beat you to death with a spiked club. No hello, no warning. Very efficient. Terrible customer service. He leaps out swinging, roaring obscenities. Theseus dodges with a grin. Hey, nice club, dude. I could really use that. Mind if I take it? Periphetes smelled like garlic and bad decisions, but man, he was strong. Still, Theseus killed him fair and square, ripped the club from his hand, and battered him to death with his own weapon. Poetic justice. From that moment on, the club of Periphetes became Theseus' trophy and his weapon, like Hercules' loud-lion skin. What he conquered became part of him.
Sinis the Pinebender.
Next up, Sinis, the Pinebender. And no, he was not an environmentalist. This psycho bent pine trees to the ground, tied people to them, and let them snap upright. Or he tied the victims between two plant trees and tear them apart. Now you know where tax collectors got their methods. When Sinis spots Theseus, he snarls, "You're dead. I kill anyone who uses my road, especially pretty boys like you." I should mention, Sinis was so ugly, his mother had to tie a lab chop around his neck just to get Cerberus, the three-headed hound of Hades, to play with him. Theseus replies, "You're barking up the wrong tree, dog." He wrestles Sinis down, bends the trees, ties him in place, and says, "I have a bow to pick with you on behalf of your victims. Make a wish, by inventor." Then he lets go. Justice, the murmured in the man's native language. They were still finding better him all over Corinth afterwards. That's what I call sinus pain. From the bushes, a girl emerges. Well, almost. Theseus hears her before he sees her, praying to the reeds and wild asparagus to hide her. She is Perigune, Sinis's daughter, dark-haired, beautiful, terrified. Theseus swears he won't harm her and eventually brings her out. She takes one look at the handsome hero, sweat shining on his chest, and nearly faints. Theseus had that effect on a woman, runs in the family. Let's just say she expresses her gratitude more than once. In time, she bears Theseus' son, Melanippus, and later Theseus sees that she's married honorably to a good man, because Theseus was not just a killer of monsters. He knew the difference between justice and cruelty.
Crommyonian sow.
The very next day, he kills the Crommyonian sow, a monstrous wild boar with a taste for small children and farmers. A spawn of Typhon, mother of the Caledonian boar. Real, wholesome bloodline here. Perfect chance to test a new club. One swing, skull shattered. I won't bore you with the details. And his legend grew.
Siren and the sea turtle.
Near Megara, he meets Siren. This creep ran what you might call a footshine stand. Travelers had to wash his filthy feet as a toll for using the road. Then, while they knelt, he kicked them off the cliff into the waiting jaws of a monster sea turtle. When he sees Theseus, he bellows, "You don't go any further until you wash my feet." Theseus notices the man is caked head to toe in a mud. It stinks like the inside of a swamp donkey. Still, he kneels, plays along, and the moment Siren kicks out, Theseus grabs his legs, hoists him off the rock, and hurls him into the sea. The turtle ate him, then immediately threw up. Even monsters have standards.
Circean, the fake boxer.
Next comes Circean, a giant bully who forced travelers to wrestle him to the death. He fancied himself a wrestler, a fraud, a cheat, a disgrace to the sport. This time he beats a man who is just as strong and much more skilled. Theseus doesn't just overpower him, he out-wrestles him, pins him clean, and as the big man realizes his script has gone sideways, Theseus snaps his neck, because skill beats brute force, always.
Procrustes the polite monster.
Then comes the last and creepiest one of all, Procrustes, also called the Mastes or Polypemon. Kai had an identity crisis. This one didn't just jump you in the woods. He invited you in. He fed you. He gave you wine. Asked you to spend the night. Then came the beds. Too short for the long bed, he stretched you until you fit. Too tall for the short one, he chopped off with dint. Damn economy motels. When he offers Theseus hospitality, our hero wastes no time. He ties the villain down to the shorter bed and finishes the job himself. Like Hercules before him, Theseus made criminals suffer the very torments they had inflicted on others. Served them right. So much for survival of the fittest. Act 6. The hero arrives. At the river Cephisus, the sons of Phytalus purify Theseus for all the blood he has spilled. It's a different world now. Different rules. Then they welcome him into their home, feed him, let him sleep, and at last the boy rests. The next morning he bathes, dresses in splendid garments, pleats his hair, straps on the sword and sandals, and, if he looked any better, he'd be jealous of himself. Outside Athens, Some masons see this handsome, long-haired youth, mistake him for a girl. They jeer, they laugh, they ask why she is walking alone. Theseus doesn't waste any time explaining biology. He simply unyokes one of their oxen, lifts it over his head, and hurls it over the temple roof. Then he pretends he might do the same with the second. The masons scatter. Not bad for a girl, eh? Athens is buzzing. A mysterious youth has arrived after slaughtering every criminal between treason and the city. Crowds gather. Maidens soon. Agents shove contracts in his face. A classic hero welcome. He's brought to the palace to meet Aegeus. The king still doesn't know who he is, but Medea knows. Oh, you remember Medea. Sorceress, manipulator, child murderer, walk-in red flag. She has charmed Aegeus, set herself up as queen, born him a son named Metis, and effectively taken over Athens. And now, here comes Theseus, the real heir, a hero, a problem. She had been hoping the bandits would kill him. No such luck, so she goes to plan B, murder. Medea convinces Aegeus that the young stranger is a spy sent to kill him. So a banquet is arranged, and into Theseus's cup she slips wolfbane, haconite, poison born, they say, from the foam of Cerberus, when Hercules dragged that mud out of Tartarus. Not something you sip and shrug off. Now, some say Theseus revealed himself during the carving of the main course. Wrong. I'm here to tell you the truth. It happened just after the appetizer. Fresh spanakopita from Thanasis Olympus Greek restaurant. Medea raises the lethal cup with a smile to the hero. Theseus lifts it to his lips, and then Aegeus sees the carving on the sword hilt. He leaps up, tears the cup from his son's hand, and smashes it to the floor. Just in time. Medea was not pleased. Too bad. It's easier to get wine stains out of marble. Act 7. The Heir of Athens. Athens goes absolutely insane. Aegeus calls the assembly and proclaims, "This is my son. This is my heir." Altars blaze with offerings. Nobles and commoners celebrate together. Songs ring through the city. Story spread.
Hey, Dimitri, did you hear what he told Sinis? Make a wish, Pine Bender.
What a character. The revelry goes on for days. Naturally, my cousin Dionysus shows up with his maenads and tatas because if there's wine, he will find it. After that, nobody remembers much. I'm sure it's happened to you. During the celebrations, Medea slips away. When Theseus goes after her, she casts a spell and vanishes inside a magical cloud. Aegeus, who is frankly more generous than I would have been, gives her safe escort out of Athens with young Medusa. She returns to Colchis and never again dares set broom in Athens. Good riddance. Greece was better off without that femme fatale. One less monster, Mohamed. But there is still one little matter to settle. Uncle Pallas and the 50 filthy sons. They split their force. Pallas had 25 sons, march openly from Sphetus with hired thugs. The other 25 hide at Gargetus, waiting to spring an ambush. Theseus is badly outnumbered, but remember, it's not survival of the fittest, it's survival of the aware. A herald named Leos tips him off. So Theseus flips the trap. Armed with his father's sword and the club of Periphetus, he falls on the ambushers first and obliterates them. 25 down, gone. When Pallas hears half his brood has been erased, his courage evaporates. He disbands the attack and begs for mercy. Theseus spares him. because true strength is known when not to kill. Then he says, "Still, it's a shame I never got to meet the rest of my cousins." Ice cold.
Act 8. A whole lot more bull.
So everyone lived happily ever after, right? Huh? Are you kidding me? Athens had a grief hanging over it. The Marathonian bull had terrorized the countryside, killing hundreds. And among the dead was Androgeus, son of King Minos of Crete. That was a problem, because Minos had a fleet, an army, and a long memory. Then a drought hit. So, naturally Athens went to Delphi, to the oracle of Apollo. And naturally the oracle had insane use. To atone for Androgeus' death, Athens must send 7 maidens and 7 youths to Crete every 9 years, to be devoured by the Minotaur in the Labyrinth. Good news, they were invited to dinner. Bad news, they were the entree. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The oracles were out of control.
The Marathonian bull.
Everything else, Theseus decides to settle accounts with the Marathonian bull itself. This raging beast had been brought from Crete by Hercules, cut loose in Argos, and had worked its murderous way to Marathon. Theseus finds it, seizes it by the horns, overpowers it, and drags it alive through the streets of Athens, while the people cheered themselves senseless. Then he hauls the disgraced creature up the Acropolis and sacrifices it to Athena and Apollo. And the problem, or so everyone hoped, because if Minos' sons killed her dead, perhaps he would relent. He did not. Minos comes in person to choose the next 14 sacrificial victims. And when he sees Theseus, he pauses. Technically, the boy was born in treason, not fully Athenian. So by the letter of the oracle, Minos cannot force him to go. But the thought of making Aegeus lose his son and heir just as he lost Androgeus, now that had appeal. Theseus senses the hesitation and steps forward. He volunteers. If he kills the Minotaur, Minos must end the tribute forever. No more bull, no more sacrifice, king. We all held our breath. Minos agrees instantly, because even if by some miracle Theseus kills the beast, nobody escapes the labyrinth. The cocky prince is signing his own death warrant. "Pack your bag, punk," says Minos. "You're going to Crete. Bring 13 of your lovely teenage friends. One wayfarers only." Then he turns to Aegeus. "Kiss your son goodbye. You'll never see him alive again." And for once, even I wasn't sure how this would end.
End of Theseus Part 1.
Coming next, Theseus goes to Crete. The killing of the Minotaur.